I brought roses and a cheesecake to my daughter's tidy beige colonial in Tacoma on Mother's Day, and she handed me a glittery pink card that read, line by line, roses are red, violets are blue, you're a burden, nobody wants you, while everyone at the table laughed. I smiled, cleared the plates, and said nothing, but the next morning I changed passwords, paused payouts, froze credit, and blocked the accounts they used to siphon my money. By lunch, my phone had logged 57 calls from numbers I didn't recognize. You're watching Revenge Files. Subscribe for a new twist daily. I can tell you the exact smell in their kitchen, cold coffee and lemon furniture polish. The card's edges were scalloped. Kayla, my only child, read it with a sing-song voice, like a child at a school assembly. Her husband, Trevor, slapped the table and wheezed with laughter. His sister filmed my face on her phone. I set the cheesecake down and kept my voice steady. Cute, I said. Let me slice dessert. I have learned this about humiliation. If you don't feed it, it starves in the open. I watched Trevor carry the leftovers into the garage, right past the illegal shampoo bowl he installed for Kayla's lash and hair side business. He didn't notice me measuring that bowl with my eyes. My heart thudded. The clock started ticking in my head. They had invited me to move into their guest suite after my knee surgery last fall. I paid $1,200 a month, plus the Comcast bill, plus groceries every other week. I also handled their bookkeeping because, as Kayla liked to remind me, you're retired, Mom. You like spreadsheets. I built their Shopify site for the salon supplies Kayla resold. I filed the LLC using my old craft business EIN to get them started fast. They promised to transfer it when we're not slammed, but then the card, and the laughter, and the look between them, relief almost, like they'd finally said the quiet part out loud. I kept my head down that night. I cleaned the counters. I rinsed my coffee mug. I messaged my friend Dawn, who teaches at the community college, "You free at 9 tomorrow?" She sent back 3 words. "You ready, Elaine?" Except I wasn't just ready. I was done. On Monday, May 13th, I woke at 6, made tea, and opened my laptop. I changed the owner email on the Shopify store from the shared account to my personal one. I flipped Stripe payouts to manual and placed a 7-day reserve. As the listed managing member of our still not transferred LLC, I had that control. I removed both of them as authorized users on my primary checking account at Evergreen Credit Union, 30 seconds on the app. I set fraud alerts on the 3 credit bureaus and froze my credit. I turned off the auto transfer that moved $400 from my Social Security each month into their household account. Then I called Tacoma Code Enforcement about a home salon operating in a garage with plumbing tied into a washing machine drain. The clerk took my name and the exact address. "We'll schedule an inspection," she said. 10 days notice. If unpermitted, fines start at $250 a day. By 8:30, my phone started lighting up. First it was Kayla, "Mom, did Stripe bug out? Clients can't pay deposits." Then Trevor, "Call me now," then unknown numbers. I let everyone go to voicemail. I kept a tally on a yellow pad. 1, 2, 3, 19 by 10 a.m., 41 by noon, 57 by 3. I saved the voicemails in a folder labeled Mother's Day. One problem, I didn't know how deep the damage went. I pulled last month's bank statements and highlighted each transfer to their household account: $1,200 rent, $138 Comcast, $176 groceries, $600 help with car repair, $400 for the baby someday. That last memo line was my handwriting. The baby someday had become hair extensions and Trevor's golf simulator. I scrolled further. 3 withdrawals I didn't recognize: $320 at an auto tag agency, $89 at DOLE Services, $42 at Pierce Parking. I hadn't stood in any DMV lines. Until I opened an email from Washington DOL Title Support. It was addressed to Elaine M. Carter or Kayla R. Thorne, confirming that a 2021 Lexus NX 300 had been titled in our names last winter. Kayla had told me the dealership needed my signature as a reference. I had asked to see the paperwork. She'd waved me off. "It's just so we can get a lower rate, Mom." My mouth went dry. Or between names in Washington meant either of us could sign to transfer. The email included the plate and VIN. I printed it and slid it under my keyboard. But then a louder chime: DocuSign. Subject line: Lease Guarantee Addendum. Signature complete. The PDF showed my name scribbled in a style that looked like my handwriting after a glass of wine. The audit trail displayed an IP address that matched the house, a signature timestamp at 1:12 a.m., and a phone number for SMS verification that was not mine. My back prickled. I printed that too. I spent the afternoon on identity-theft.gov, filed an FTC report, and used their template to draft a police report. I attached the DocuSign audit trail, the DOL email, and screenshots of Kayla texting me, "We'll pay you back once the salon takes off." I added the Mother's Day card photo at the end, like a ribbon on a package. The officer at the substation took my statement and gave me a case number on a perforated slip. I folded it in half and tucked it into my wallet. At 4, Trevor burst into the kitchen, phone in hand. "We just got an email from Stripe," he said to the air, not to me. "They put a hold on payouts. Who did you call?" I measured rice into a pot. "The internet," I said. "And the bank, to remove you from my account. You're ruining our business." "No, Trevor," I said. "You did that when you used my identity to guarantee your lease and title your car." I filed a report, and I scheduled a meeting with legal aid for Friday. If I find one more forged document, I'll ask the prosecutor about elder abuse. His face changed colors. White, then red, then a new shade I hadn't seen. "You can't prove any of that." "I have audit logs," I said, "and IP addresses, and I have my memory." But then he laughed a little. "You don't really want to go to war with your own daughter." I turned off the burner. "Yes," I said. "Actually, I do," he texted Kayla. Doors slammed. Someone cried. I lidded the rice and walked to my room with my laptop in the file folder. That night, I emailed the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department about unlicensed cosmetology services in a residence. I also checked the Washington Cosmetology Board's license portal. Kayla's old license had expired last year. I printed that screen too. Receipts stacked. The folder grew. The next morning, I locked a small rolling suitcase, called Dawn, and said, "Pick me up." We drove to a storage unit off South 38th Street and rented a 5x10 for $69 a month. I packed my birth certificate, my late husband's flag, the quilts my grandmother stitched, a shoebox of photos, and the thumb drive with our family tax returns. On the way back, I stopped at Evergreen Credit Union and asked the teller to flag any attempts to add new users to my accounts. She typed notes. "You're not the first mom to do this," she said quietly. Except my leverage wasn't only money. It was paper. I found the UCC filing for Carter Creative LLC, my old craft company shell I'd let Kayla use to secure a microloan for salon equipment last December. I was the signer on the loan. The collateral list included 2 Takara Belmont chairs, 1 freestanding shampoo bowl, LED task lights, and retail shelving. The payment had been late in April. I drafted a notice of default using a template from a small business clinic and sent it certified mail to the house, even though I lived there. The law loves envelopes. That afternoon, a Tacoma code officer arrived in a city Prius and left a bright orange inspection scheduled door hanger. Trevor took it down and crumpled it. He called me psycho in a whisper he thought I couldn't hear. Then he texted Kayla. "Strip said $12,000 reserve. This is your mom's fault." Except the reserve wasn't my fault. It was Stripe's risk algorithm doing math on chargebacks. I had simply reminded the math who owned the account. At legal aid on Friday, a young attorney with ink-stained fingers studied my file. "You've got clear identity theft on the lease guarantee," she said, tapping the DocuSign audit trail. "And your name on the vehicle title gives you unusual leverage. We can't unwind every mistake, but we can draw a line. I suggest 3 tracks at once." She numbered on a legal pad. Small claims for the money, administrative complaints for the salon, and a DMV letter to place a fraud alert on the title record. I nodded. "What about the lease guarantee? We send the landlord a certified letter with the identity theft report and demand removal of you as guarantor," she said. "If they balk, we invite them to small claims. Judges hate forged signatures." I filed the small claims the next business day. Pierce County District Court. Claim for $18,450. The sum of rent, utilities, and loans I could prove with memo lines and texts. Filing fee, $50. I listed Kayla and Trevor both. Hearing date, July 1st, 2024 at 9 a.m. I felt a tremor in my hands as I slid the stamped forms into the folder. Dawn squeezed my shoulder. "Breathe," she said. But then the retaliation started. That night, my lockbox with passports went missing. A week later, I came home to find my door stripped of the old brass knob and fitted with a cheap silver-keyed entry set. The key left on the counter didn't turn. I filmed the knob with my phone and called non-emergency. The officer told Trevor, calmly, that he couldn't lock me out of a place I paid to occupy. Trevor shrugged and put the old knob back on. The officer gave me a card. "Document everything," she said. The texts got uglier. "We'll put you in assisted living," Trevor wrote. "Your memory's going anyway." I saved it. Kayla wrote, "It was a joke, Mom. Everyone loved the card. You're making this nuclear." I responded once, "You forged my name. That's nuclear." Then I stopped responding at all. The code inspection happened on a Thursday morning while Trevor was at work and Kayla was mid-lash appointment. The officer measured the garage sink drainage with a tape measure, checked the breaker panel, and took photos of hair dye stacked near a space heater. He issued a written notice, 10 days to cease operations and remove the unpermitted plumbing, or fines would begin at $250 per day, escalating to $500 per day after 30 days. He copied the HOA. But then Kayla posted a subtweet about toxic moms who can't stand to see their kids thrive and tagged the salon's client page. 2 regulars messaged me unprompted, screenshots of Kayla complaining that I stole our stripe, which wasn't even good grammar. I printed those, too. I wasn't going to litigate online. I was going to show a judge receipts. By mid-June, the letters started working. The landlord's attorney called legal aid and proposed a release. Remove me as guarantor, backdated to the original lease, contingent on proof of identity theft. We accepted and countersigned. The DMV placed a customer concern note on the Lexus title file. The insurance company sent a polite letter. Proof of insurable interest was required within 30 days or coverage would lapse. Now Trevor and Kayla had to refinance or surrender the car. They chose to scream instead. On June 20, a man in a polo with stripe risk embroidered on it called my phone to verify account changes. That surprised me. Merchant services companies do not usually make house calls. He wasn't at my house, of course. The shirt was over Zoom, but his calm voice cut through my nerves. "We've placed a rolling reserve because of policy violations," he said, explaining in that slow customer-to-education cadence that Kayla had advertised unlicensed cosmetology services on the booking link. "Payouts are paused until documentation is resolved." I nodded into the camera. He couldn't see my hands shaking. "Thank you," I said. The small claims hearing felt like a DMV waiting room was elected judge for a day. Gray carpet, a mural of Mount Rainier behind the bench. The clerk called our case at 9 sharp. Kayla wore a white blazer and no apology. Trevor sat beside her, arms crossed, jaw working like he was chewing invisible gum. I wore a navy cardigan and the steadiness I had practiced. The judge asked me to speak. I laid the file on the little podium and opened to my index. "Your Honor," I said, "I'm asking for $18,450. I can show you every transfer and the texts where they agreed to pay me back when the salon made money." I slid forward color-coded bank statements, grocery receipts, and the Comcast bills with my name. Then I set down the Mother's Day card photograph. "This is not part of the monetary claim," I said, "but it explains why I stopped voluntary support." The judge lifted the photo, read the poem, and blinked. "Understood," she said. "Proceed." Kayla's turn came. "It was all gifts," she said. "She moved in with us. She wanted to help. She was happy to help. She's weaponizing our business now because we set boundaries." The judge held up a finger. "Do you have any written evidence that these were gifts?" Kayla shuffled her papers. "Well, no, but do you have any texts from Miss Carter stating she doesn't want to be paid back?" Kayla looked at Trevor. He stared at the floor. I said, "May I add one exhibit?" The judge nodded. I set down the DocuSign audit trail for the lease guarantee with the IP address. "This is separate," I said, "but it speaks to credibility. That is not my phone number or my IP address." The judge studied the log. She pressed her lips together. "Ms. Thorne," she said to Kayla, "did you sign your mother's name without her consent?" Kayla's mouth opened, closed, opened. "It's just," Trevor said. Trevor touched her sleeve. "Don't," he whispered. The judge wrote for a long time. Then she looked up. "Judgment for the plaintiff, in the amount of $18,450 plus $95 in costs," she said. "Interest at the statutory rate. Payment due in full within 60 days. She glanced at the audit trail again. I will also include in the written judgment that the parties stipulate to remove M.S. Carter as a guarantor on any lease within 10 business days, and to make no further use of her identity for any purpose. While small claims jurisdiction is limited, your stipulation makes this enforceable. Do you both understand? Trevor said nothing. Kayla said yes, but then the judge added one more sentence almost gently. I suggest you apologize, she said. Not as a condition of the judgment, as a condition of being decent. Outside the courtroom, Trevor hissed, You ruined us. His breath smelled like cinnamon gum. You think you won? I folded the judgment into my folder. No, I said. I think I stopped losing. The written order arrived by mail on July 7th. Stripe sent a separate notice that same week. The account was terminated for policy violations, rolling reserve held for 90 days to cover chargebacks. The HOA levied a $1,000 fine for operating a business in violation of covenants. Tacoma Code Enforcement's follow-up found the salon equipment still installed. Fines began at $250 per day. By week 3, Trevor had a spreadsheet of his own, numbers marching downward. They tried one more angle. Their landlord served them a 10-day compliance notice based on the code findings. Trevor called and asked me to help with the first month somewhere else. Like the last 3 months hadn't happened. I said, use your golf simulator money. He hung up. On July 18th, Kayla knocked on my door without opening it. I'll try to repay you, she said through the wood. But I need the Lexus title back. We can't refinance that fast. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the DOL letter. It's both our names with or Kayla. I can sign a transfer without you. I'm not going to. I'm going to hold it until you refinance. That's not spite. That's leverage so I don't end up on another document without knowing it. Silence. Then a sound I recognized from her childhood. The soft, embarrassed laugh when she knew she'd been caught. 2 days later, movers carried out the salon chairs, the shampoo bowl, and the retail shelves. The UCC letter had done its job. On July 25th, Kayla texted a photo of a cashier's check for $8,000, half the judgment, with the words, the rest by next month. I took the bus to Evergreen Credit Union, deposited it, and sat in the cafe with a honey latte I didn't have to justify to anyone. My hands stopped shaking by the last sip. But then the phone rang. Unknown number. I answered on instinct. Miss Carter? This is Detective Alvarez from the Financial Crimes Unit. I received your identity theft file and wanted to let you know we've referred the forged lease signature to the prosecutor for review. No promises, but I wanted you aware. Thank you, I said. I don't want them in jail. I want them out of my wallet. Understood, he said. Sometimes the threat of a charge is enough. I moved out on August 3. Dawn and 2 of her students carried my boxes into a sunny one-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a building with a view of Commencement Bay if you leaned just right on the balcony. The manager gave me a welcome packet with a magnet that said laundry on 2. The place smelled like fresh paint and hope. I bought a second-hand couch from a teacher retiring to Arizona and a little dining table from a man whose daughter had outgrown it. I slept hard that night and woke without checking my phone for fires to put out. Kayla delivered the remainder of the judgment on August 29th, after a reminder from the court facilitator that wage garnishment paperwork was not an idle threat. She texted, "This feels awful." I started to type, so did that card, and then I stopped. I wrote, "Paying back money you owe isn't supposed to feel good. It's supposed to feel honest." On September 2, I got a letter from the landlord confirming the removal of my name from the lease, effective retroactively. On September 9th, the DMV mailed a notice. The Lexus title had been updated. Kayla and Trevor only, no or. I put both letters in the folder, the file that had started as a life raft and turned into a map. The code enforcement fine stopped once the garage was returned to a garage. The HOA lifted the daily penalties but left the $1,000. Stripe released what was left of their reserve in November, $312.28, because chargebacks had eaten the rest. Kayla picked up a real job at a salon in the Proctor district and sent me a photo of her renewed license without a caption. I couldn't tell if it was peace or a plea. On the first Sunday of December, I walked to the farmer's market and bought a bunch of red roses and another of blue-tinted violets from a seller who wrapped them in brown paper and twine. I carried them home like a quiet joke. I set the roses in a jam jar, the violets in a teacup, and opened a blank card, the simple white kind you can't weaponize with glitter or rhymes. I wrote one sentence to myself: "You don't have to keep what people hand you on Mother's Day this year." I baked a smaller cheesecake. I invited 2 friends from the Quilt Guild. We ate on my balcony while a ferry cut across the bay. My phone sat face down on the table. If it rang 57 times, I didn't hear a single one. Kayla did text. "Happy Mother's Day," she wrote. "I'm sorry about the card." I typed back, "Thank you. Pay your bills and choose kinder jokes." A minute later, I will. Another, "Can I call?" I let her. She started with a breath, not a defense. "I didn't expect you to be so strong," she said. "I didn't expect you to be so cruel," I answered. And then we stood in the middle ground, the only place anything true can grow. If there's a lesson, it isn't embroidered. It's numbers in a ledger, lines you don't cross, and the plain power of saying no. I keep the old card tucked behind the new lease release and the DMV note, not as a wound but as a ruler. On the days I doubt myself, I pull it out, read the words, and then look at the flowers on my table. Red roses and bright violets, and remember, I don't accept gifts that carry their own apology.